Welcome everybody to SEO Office Hours. My name is Michael Chidzey. I'm an SEO here at Good Signals. And part of what we do, along with special guests, are these office hour sessions where people can jump in and ask their questions around their website and web search. By the way, nobody here is in the hot seat and we might not know all the answers, but multiple heads thinking about a problem should help. We have a bunch of questions submitted already, as you can see, which we'll go through. But if there is anybody here live on the call that would like to ask any question, feel free to flag yourself in the chat functionality, which will be monitored. And there's usually a bunch of other SEOs here on the call, not just the four of us. So feel free to share your perspectives to some of the questions. I think that's one of the best things about SEO Office Hours isn't just the four of us speaking, but actually all the other perspectives that people provide. And she is back. So like always, with me is Juliana Turnbull, also known as SEO Joe Blogs. Good morning, Joe. How you doing?
Good morning. Thank you. Yes, I am back. And I want to say a big thank you to Natalia Witczek, who has joined us as well as a guest for being the co-host last week. So thank you very much for that. Yeah, I was out seeing Park Guel with my sister, who's in Australia, doesn't come over that much. So thank you, Natalia. And yeah, we've got a good lineup today. We've got loads of people that have joined us already. So great to see so many people here today. And yes, as Mike said, I'm Juliana Turnbull. I run a company called Turn Global here in Barcelona. We're a remote digital consultancy business, and we help clients that want to expand their audience go into different markets and go global. We're remote, but we have the base here and also in Brisbane, so we can cover pretty much all the time zones. And I also run two search events, Search London and Search Barcelona. And actually, we have our next in-person event, August 2nd, here in Barcelona, terrace drinks and a dinner. And today, I'm really pleased to have two special guests on the show today. We have Martina and Germé, also fellow entrepreneurs. They run their own business. Hello, Martina and Germé.
Hello.
Hello.
So first of all, Martina, I think been speaking a lot to Martina online through Women in Tech SEO. And actually, I think I met you in person, probably just at Brighton SEO. And Martina actually has been traveling the world before. She was traveling the world for 18 months, one of these digital nomads before it was trendy. She's traveled the world, visited quite a few places and was working. And she is an international SEO consultant. And she's a strategist as well. So she's got over 10 years experience in different industries, including SaaS, retail, e-commerce, FMCG, automotive, and tourism. But she's also got in-house and agency experience. So she will bring a holistic perspective to SEO Office Hours today. So thank you, Martina, for joining us. I will share her LinkedIn details here in the chat.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you also to Germé for coming on the show. Germé is a seasoned marketing professional with over 15 years experience and has a diverse background in digital strategy and SEO. He's dialing in from Barcelona as well today. He's been here for 2 years. And actually, he spoke at Search Barcelona last November. That was only our second edition. He will be a regular speaker at an event. It's a global consultancy where people share failures. I couldn't find the link before when we were chatting about it. So maybe, Germé, you can share that link. But as I was talking to Germé before, it's great that people can actually share what didn't work, because it gives people hope to an inspiration for them to actually realize that things don't work. But if we work on it, you can actually have success. So Germé himself actually had a marketing setback, but he transformed adversity into opportunity, giving rise to his SEO consultancy. So his company is called Prism Search. So thank you very much, Germé, for joining us today.
Yeah, great to be here. Hi, everyone.
So we've got a full entrepreneurial SEO Office Hours today, and we've got quite a few people joining us. And remember, if there's anything that you want to get involved with, whether it's in the chat, asking questions, please do. Or if you want to be a special guest like Germé or Martina, please sign up to SEO Office Hours. And of course, those watching live, thank you for watching live. If you would love to, like our video, and also for those that are watching the recording. So I'll pass back over to Mike because we've got loads of questions today.
We have got tons. Okay, let's crack on. I may read a little bit off the screen today because there are a few longer questions in my writing. I can just about get through just a few of them. We'll try with this one. Okay, our client wants to use the same images on many different landing pages of his domain. He came up with the idea of uploading the same file several times, and depending on which landing page they're on, basically change the focus keyword. So for example, on one landing page, they might call the same file furniture safe, and then on another page, it might be hotel safe. What are the best practices? What can we recommend to our customer? And does this even make sense? Okay, who would like to kick off? Germé, go for it. Awesome.
Yeah, sure. So I would say, just to answer the core question, what are the best practices? So you speak a lot about file naming convention, but don't forget about alt tags. I think alt tags are more important than file naming convention. So just take note of that first. And then to answer the question about the duplicate images on different pages, I would say things in SEO is always relative, right? It's relative to what's happening with your competitors in the industry, and it's relative to what's happening in your own ecosystem. And it's the scale at which issues are happening that's really what you need to dig into. So for example, if you're telling me that your client has 10-page website and he wants to add the same images on 5 of the pages, I would rather approach him and say, look, maybe it's not a good customer experience because 50% of your pages will have exactly the same images. And as SEOs, we get quickly carried away by the technical aspects of it. But actually, to speak to a client more from the impact that it will have from a user experience, I think is much more important. So talking about the scale of it, yeah, sure, 50% on a 10-page website, but it becomes a bigger problem if it's a 1,000-page website and it's 500 pages. So you also have to look at the absolute number thereof. So I would definitely in this situation go back and bring forward some more statistical data to say, okay, you'll impact 50% of your website by doing this. On average, users are maybe viewing about 2 pages per visit. So we believe, although it might not negatively or positively impact SEO, we do believe that it will impact customer experience. So I think always talking it from the perspective of the customer experience rather than trying to deliver what impact it will have on SEO is much more valuable to the customer. So yeah, I'll take that approach. But I wouldn't say that using the same images would impact it, but you have to take into consideration the scale of, let's call it, the issue or the item that you want to create.
Great.
I hope that answers it. Yeah.
Yes, fantastic. Martina or Joe, do you have anything to add?
I don't.
No?
I
Okay.
actually agree about this. Like it should be mostly like customer centric.
Yeah.
I would say that was a very thorough answer and a nice little comment from Simon. So great test. He needs to let us know how that works out. So yeah, I would say test it. Isadora is talking about saying that she agrees with Germé. It's a great to mention customer experience. So it doesn't make sense to her. From a content creator's view, is it a huge deal to make different images? I think if you have different images, everyone loves images. There was a time where everyone was doing like image search, for ages. And they remember when we used to have Lickr. So I would actually, test it out, and very good answer from Germé.
Germé, you mentioned about alt tags. Don't forget those alt tags. How do you feel about using different alt tags on different pages for images? Have you got any thoughts around that?
Yeah, to me, in my experience, to be honest, the impact of what a good naming convention in alt tags has on your performance is very negligible. I've seen websites that have very bad alt tags, very bad naming convention, or missing alt tags. And actually, when you roll it out, very good naming convention, the impact that it had is quite minimal. I would say it's just very good practice. I would say I will always speak about things being relative. So if, for example, you're up against competitor ABC and they have good alt tags, you don't, this is a very simple example. It's much better to be on par with what your competitors are doing. And if they are doing a good job there, it's good practice to ensure that naming convention is as applicable to the image as possible. Yeah.
Okay, super. Let's go on to the next question. Yeah, I think I do use the same images across our site, but sometimes depending on the actual context of the image, the alt tag might be a little bit different because obviously it depends on why you're using it. But yeah, I just thought I'd ask you about that. Okay, next question. We are considering expanding into US. What steps can we take to ensure our rankings begin appearing in this new market? Oh, it's quite a meaty one. Martina, I can see your hands up. Very polite. Go for it.
I'd love to answer that one. I think you have to make sure to do a proper market research and have a budget, because US is a very different and it's a very competitive market, even though if you're established like in the UK, that's just completely different. People are different, and you will have to actually accept the fact that you will most likely need to communicate a bit differently with the audience, and you will not be able to just either translate one-to-one because it may not work, or just use British English for Americans, because in general, when it comes to international SEO, every market is very different. People have different maturity levels when it comes to the topics, to the niches, and hence they also might face different problems. And for these problems, they might find a little bit different solutions. And you basically won't be able to do it without locals, because on many markets, this is just a no-go, because that trust from the customers or potential customers, potential prospects, may just simply not be there if they're not speaking to the person that just lives there and knows a lot about that market. I have experienced this many times. Unfortunately, usually companies don't have budgets and they just think that they will just translate what they already have, and then they are surprised why it's just not working, why it's not meeting our targets. And this is the way they never really try to understand the market and the market's needs.
Great. Germé, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just quickly, I agree with that. It really comes back to what your product is, what your service is, and if you will be a good fit there, and understanding the competition within the market as well, not only the consumers, or whether you're B2C or B2B, but just understanding who you are up against in that market. Because if you are winning in the UK, you have very different competitors to what you'll have in the US. So just to add on as additional information would be check out in your verticals who you are up against, do proper research against these competitors. If you really want to enter and win in that SEO space, it will give you enough information for you to actually go. Do we have, then tying back to Martina's question, the budget to be able to take down these guys? Otherwise, yeah, it just won't work.
That's a very good point. You should assess what the competition is like before, and then see if you have the budget. Then once you say, yes, I have the budget, then go into that market. I would just like to add that I've seen a lot of companies, when they've gone to the US, they haven't made it, or vice versa, come to the UK, because just because the same language doesn't mean that we have the same demands or needs. And when it comes to actually SEO, then it's really important to make sure that the content is different. I was doing a site migration for one client, and we went to the Canada domain, and they de-indexed it because they thought it was the same as the US domain. The content was pretty much the same. So I would make sure that if you are going into another market, differentiate your content. It is the same language, but there's so many words that are completely different. I found that when I moved to the school in the UK after going from the US, I had to learn a whole another language again. But the priority thing is to just do the research to see, do you have that budget? Once you have the budget, then allocate the time for that.
Great. Yeah, I agree with everybody here. I think my first steps would be to do some research, and I'd probably start with keyword research and trying to work out what people are actually searching for, and then look at who is currently ranking for those terms and do some competitor analysis like the others have said. I think particularly it depends on where you're coming from. If you're coming from, say, the UK, although the language is the same, sometimes the intent is different. So for instance, if you're in travel, if you search for the term holidays in the UK, you often find in the search results packaged holidays and things like that appearing. If you take that same search and do it from, I don't know, New York or LA, you'll find that public holidays seem to be the most popular, seem to be the pages that rank. Although there's search volume there, I would definitely make sure you're actually looking at the search results to understand if what you're looking at is the same thing over there as it is over here, and then analyze those websites that rank well and try and put a plan together. And is that you do something with your existing site? Is it a different brand? Is it, if you're talking to a different audience? Everybody here has mentioned budget, but if you're thinking about targeting a different audience, can you adapt what you have, or do you basically have to rebuild something? And therefore, my first steps would be do the research and then put a potential plan in place, and be just really realistic with timing. That it's good that you're only thinking about it now, because that means that gives you a bit of time to put some foundations in place now, that hopefully when you properly go there, and maybe you're doing TV ads or other things as well, that you've got the right foundations in place.
Yeah, sorry, I was going to say also maybe look and see what companies are doing it well, how they managed to crack it. If you can, sometimes people like to share advice. We have some comments in the chat on this one, so it's been great. Simon said about might need to consider a local SEO strategy for the US. Very good point, because the US is massive. So make sure that you can deliver in all the states. And he's also said that for US, if you're going over to the US, use a .com, not a .us, because they think the .com is for the USA. So we've got a lot of chat in there. But Waleed was talking about looking at US high authority sites and start building the content regularly. I think it's about, back to the promotion. What are you doing? How do you want to get people to find you? Maybe do some outreach with, maybe you could also partner with other companies out there or any influencers to promote some of your key USPs. And actually, we have another question coming in from the chat for a third question. So perhaps we take that one, Mike, or if you want to go ahead with our third question.
Go for it, Joe.
Okay, so this is a very interesting one, and thanks, Natalia, for sharing this one. So a client in a travel industry niche wants to migrate their site to a city-level domain like .london or .barcelona from a .com. It's not an SEO-led decision, but a bigger one. But she is wondering if it will have a negative impact on SEO. Do .city domains, do they boost local rankings while being less visible outside, or are they neutral? So we've had some people comment on that, and I've actually never come across it, so that's a very interesting one. Simon was talking about, I thought a city-level domain is a great indication of location. There's a few other replies here. Albert's talking about stick to top-level domains. Yeah, so it's just interesting to find it. Has anyone else used a .city domain before for some of their clients, and has that negatively affected like the top-level domain?
I didn't have direct experience with .city, but if you look at what the situation is here, and the .com has obviously been around for a while, and obviously you'll put redirects in place and all of this to all the different .city level domains. But there's obviously a lot of data that I don't have, but I would say is to look at how you're going to be spreading yourself thin, right? You are going to have all of these different domains. Maybe all of them will acquire links differently. You will basically have to build up this domain's authority over a longer period of time, rather than recommending, obviously, like a subfolder where all of the subfolders and the authority can feed into the main domain, and you can get the same results or better results than starting to work off from scratch. But you have to be also realistic about how these different domains will be up against players that maybe have been in the game for a very long time.
Thank you. We've also had a comment here that .city is basically a GTLD, so thank you for that. Vicky's saying for international setup, configure the country level URL structure, add a country switcher. So I can't read and talk at the same time. So Vicky has written a few things, written some comments in the chat. It might be easy for everyone to read that. But yeah, keep adding to this. It was a very interesting question. So thank you, Natalia, for that.
For what it's worth, I monitor the search results across the travel industry quite a lot for very competitive terms and very different ones. And I very rarely see the .cities in those. And that's just something I highlight. It's not something that I have experience in, but it's just something that I've noticed. Obviously, there are .com websites and there are .londons. That's also something else to point out.
I think the answer is we don't know if it's actually going to have a negative impact, really. We haven't seen that yet, but it would just be interesting to know perhaps like why do they want to do that instead of having the .com?
With this type of question, if you have this question in conferences, they often bring up years ago, it was either the Evening Standard or the Metro, which are London papers. They moved to the .London, but then they moved back to the .com.
Oh.
But that's from 8 years ago. So it's a very outdated case study. But if you read about this sort of subject, that's the one that seems to be used again and again from people here in the UK.
That's a very good case study.
It is. It's just a bit out of date. That's the only thing. But obviously, they were major papers. They saw a huge drop, and therefore they switched back. And they were very obviously pro-London because they're London papers for a London audience. Okay, should we move on to the next one?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to read this one from the computer, if that's all right, just because it's a very long one, and I don't want to try and trust my handwriting. Okay, my client's news website has been verified and approved in the Google Publisher Center. We have completed all the technical SEO requirements to be listed on Google News results, but we're still not getting any of the visibility expected. Do you think Google is ignoring new Google publishers? What else can we do to improve our Google News results apart from meeting technical requirements and ensuring high quality content and a good page speed? Oh, Germé, brilliant. Go for it. Hand up.
Yeah.
Very polite this week. We never usually get this.
Yeah. The keyword for me here is new, right? New might mean you only launched this in the last couple of weeks, maybe a month ago. And the thing is with Google News and Discover, it's a very big black box for me. I've been working with the publisher now for about 2.5 years. We're pulling in about 1.3 to 1.5 million users a month. 50% traffic from Discover, 30 from Google News, and the other 20 from organic. So Discover and News are very important channels for us, extremely. But about 1.5 years ago, we were simply kicked out of Google News. And for us to get back into it, and this is why I think the story would relate, is yours is new, so I would definitely give it time. There is just no studies out there to exactly say how long it will take. It varies from industry to industry. But what I can tell you is to share some tips on how we got back into Google News after we got kicked out. Because from our perspective, we were also doing everything completely 100% to the book, to the guidelines, and we still got kicked out. And so we definitely started first with performance, but we also support vitals, just making sure that everything is loading correctly. And obviously, my client, they do push ads to make sure that the ratio isn't more than a 4:1. So your content must be 4 times on a given page rather than ads. So from that perspective, the loading and the ads, you need to make sure of if there are ads on this news website. Then secondly, image optimization. We spend quite a bit of time to ensure that we are loading high quality images, that they are loading in the fastest manner possible, they render correctly, and at the correct sizes. So that was 2 things. And the third thing is make sure that your sitemap is automatically, when you post something, that it pushes to the XML. That's quite important. This is built on WordPress, so there's a lot of plugins that you can just optimize your news XML for, that it pushes directly into the XML. And then that's more from the technical side. And then from the content side, we didn't change a lot in terms of what we were writing about. It is a football publisher. The news that comes out of there, we didn't have a problem with frequency. But we did play around with especially the titles of our articles. And I think in what we tested, this definitely made a big difference. We made it more punchier. We didn't try to over-optimize it with keywords, etc. Just make it more punchier, make it more eye-catchy, make it more intriguing, that it will actually encourage more click-through rates rather than focusing on stuffing all of the keywords you want to rank for, because News and Discover doesn't really operate on that level. And then the other part would be tagging. We really reworked in terms of how we structure our site through category and tags, very defined tags and categories. so that our content can relate to each other in a very well thought out manner. We didn't just leave it so that somebody creates any tag that they want, Manchester United, Manchester, and then you sit up with a big mess. So I would say those are the key tips. We've done a lot at the same time. So we will talk a bit more about testing probably somewhere in the session, but we've done a lot of things at the same time. And I can't tell you that the one thing worked, but you just have to keep on pushing. And I think if you focus on those elements and also not the frequency of your content, another big thing that we figured is when are people online the most? So we figured out there was like a very early morning session just before lunch, mid-afternoon, and then an evening period. So we, instead of just posting 5 articles in the morning, we scheduled them to be in, obviously it gets pushed to the news XML at that time, but to publish them in these busy periods so that Google can actually see, okay, when there's more demand here, we actually have new content to be indexed and to be shown to the users in News and Discover. Yeah, I know that was a lot, but I think if you focus on these key areas, if your technical and your content writing is in order, try and test these other things, the tagging and the times that you post, as well as your headlines. Yeah.
Great. Joe, with that, I can see some really interesting thoughts.
Thank you, Germé. It's very interesting to share your experience of what you did. So I think if anyone has any questions, please message Germé. Simon has said to build brand, it's new, so it needs to be shouted about to gain traction. Spend on PPC to get that brand moving. We also have a comment here saying that publisher-centered listing doesn't guarantee ranking in news. And also John saying it depends what type of news it is. And he himself, he's tried to rank commodities insights on news for 3 years on a high domain, but it has been very hard to get traction. So it seems to be that it's quite difficult to get. Build your brand, follow some of the tips that Germé said. They changed a lot of different things for their client, and now they're getting more of a traction. But don't give up is the key thing.
Great.
That's all we have so far.
Are you happy for us to jump on to the next question, or did anybody else want to add anything? Amazing.
Oh, wait, actually, good newsletter for news SEO. It's SEO for journalism. Thank you, Simon, for sharing that. Just before we jump into the next one, for those that are watching from home, of course, watching from home, everyone is, but those watching not live, and you want to be on the show, you can sign up here. I'll share the link on goodsignals.com/SEO-office-hours. So SEO office hours on the Good Signals website. And also those watching us live, if you're enjoying the show, well, you are, I'm sure. Click a like on the videos and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Oh, thank you. Best office hour show ever. Thank you. But we've taken great inspiration from you.
Actually, on that, Simon's obviously just shared a newsletter. There was a question here somewhere around how do you keep up with SEO news, trends, changes, all of that jazz. Martina, how do you keep up with things?
I honestly very often feel like I don't. I think it's necessary to say that. I think it's very easy to burn out when you're an SEO because it's just difficult keeping up, especially if you want to cover many industries, if you want to work both B2B and BTC. So it can be actually very tricky to stay sane. So what I did to stay sane, I usually allocate like certain like time per week that I just spend on like reading the news, watching the videos, following other people from different countries doing SEO, read the newsletters. From time to time, I listen to podcasts. Usually when I travel somewhere, I listen to podcasts. And I'm a part of several SEO groups. So I usually just pick what I'm most interested in, and then I focus on that one topic for a certain period. And I think this is just important that I also say that because I feel it, like I feel the pressure of many SEOs to really just stay up to date about everything, but I think it's not really possible. And I think it's just normal that we don't know everything. And when I was younger, I also felt that pressure, but the older I get, I just know how many things I don't know, and I will probably never know. And I think it's okay because I have a lot of amazing people in SEO community that know better, and I can recommend them. So this is how I do that.
Great. And Germé, how do you keep up to date with changes, trends, everything?
Yeah, I'll explain what I do. Twitter is really a good one to get, let's call it, breaking news. And I follow a lot of people, a lot of publications, etc. But maybe I'll share my tip on how I go about keeping abreast with all the trends and the changes and so forth. I have what I call bookmarking time, and then I have reading time. So I alternate between the two because I also don't like reading every day and trying to keep up with these trends every day. So I would do, for example, on a Monday, a bookmarking day, right? And I just spend 30 minutes or 40 minutes, whether it's on Twitter, where I bookmark things, and oh, this is interesting, bookmark. I go onto the web, bookmark, and the next day I will take an hour out of my day and just spend reading that. The next day, I do another bookmark session if I don't find anything interesting or there's nothing. And I do spend a lot of time reading people's case studies. I think from that perspective, you do realize a lot of info in terms of their approach, what didn't work, what worked. So you learn a lot from case studies. But yeah, I generally go through a session where I just bookmark a lot of stuff and I come back to it because I feel in the moment it can feel quite overwhelming when you're trying to look for information. So rather just set you up something and then take out some quiet time and just focus on that from all the other madness that's happening around you. Yeah.
Great. What about you, Joe? How do you keep up with news, trends, changes, all that stuff?
I really go into events, webinars, and also in-person events, but I do, and I have subscribed to the SEO FOMO newsletter from the beginning. It's great now, has over 32,000, I think, people. Nope, sorry, 34.2 thousand SEOs and marketers. It's a great newsletter. And I'm also subscribed to the Signal. The Signal also does a great roundup.
Hey.
And also the WTS newsletter. It has a lot of information there. It goes out every single week. And also, if you're part of different communities, so it can feel lonely at the top if you're account director, or also it can feel quite lonely if you're freelance or you're a junior member of staff and you don't really want to ask your colleagues, then join communities. Martina has said that. Obviously, she is part of a community called Women Tech SEO, as am I. Germé and I are also part of another community, SEO Barcelona. And I also run Search London and the Barcelona edition and the online edition, so that we can make sure we have talks that are actionable, practical, that we can actually learn from others. It can be very overwhelming. So I completely agree with Martina. Just don't think like that. I don't know if anyone studied history at uni or at school. Like, there was so much information. You can't learn everything of what happened. Just trying to think about the main facts, and also try not to, and for history anyway, try not to repeat it. But also, like, for SEO, just try and focus on one area, because people will respect you in that way. If you can say, oh, I'm not for example, an SEO news consultant, but I can recommend this person. I'm better at digital PR, or I'm better at GA4. Nobody expects you to know everything. So just remember that. And try and enjoy it. Read it when it's fun for you, not because, oh God, it's Monday morning, I got to read this stuff now.
Great. I would recommend, I love, in terms of newsletters, if you haven't subscribed, I like the Blue Array one. That's really good. It goes out on a Sunday. And SEO FOMO, they both go out at the same time. In between them, they catch the whole week's worth of news from places like Search Engine Land and Search Engine Roundtable and so on, and things that, say, some Googlers have said and so on. So I find that's quite a good way of catching up with what's happened. Communities, like Joe has said, I have lists on Twitter actually of lots of people who I love reading from and the things that they share. And I just tend to, every couple of days, go through just those specific lists on Twitter to see what people have shared and said, which is really helpful. There are some amazing podcasts. Obviously, you've got the one, Search Off the Record, which is great. Search with Candor, which is really good. The Wix one, which is really good. So I get a lot of more in-depth news from there, where they get an opportunity to really talk about topics. And so many more. Is there anything in the chat, Joe? And we'll jump onto a more kind of specific technical question.
Lee's talking about, he likes to read the latest articles published by Ahrefs, SEMrush, Moz, and all the relevant sites. Yeah, Search Engine Journal, Search Engine Land. Communities are a safe way to learn and share, Monty's saying. Yeah, that's all for now. But actually, back to your Metro case study. We can't find that, Mike. about them moving from, yeah. So maybe
Inside the Metro or the Evening Standard. I'll try and find it whilst we're talking. Okay, next question. Is there a tool or way to restrict AI bots from accessing and copying our website's content? Martina, you're nodding. Are you happy to take this one on?
Yes. So I don't know about a tool, but basically search for AI user agents, the crawlers, and then disallow them in your robots.txt file from crawling your website. It's possible.
Great.
That was short, right?
Very short and sweet. I thought
Yeah, but that's what I recommend to my clients in case they just want to restrict them.
No, that's great. I just actually started looking for that case study. And then I was like, that's done. Okay, cool.
But I'm pretty sure, yeah, I will be a little sarcastic. I'm pretty sure there is a tool you can pay for. I'm pretty sure.
Germé, any additional thoughts?
No, I think that's short and sweet, and what I would do as well. I would just add, why does it need to be done? Because I think the client is aware that obviously you will cut out visibility in a sense because they want to use your content in maybe overviews, etc. Yeah, if you willing to take kind of that risk, it's good.
Great. And Joe, anything in the chat or anything to add?
Yeah, no, those are great, short and sweet. We have one saying, or block star, so all, and allow only the ones you like, and also recommendation that actually Cloudflare has a setting. So thank you for that. Thanks, John.
Super. Okay, next question.
We are flying through them.
I'm surprised we've not had this one before, actually. How do you write an SEO-friendly blog post that generates traffic? Who would like to kick off on this one?
I can.
Martina, go for it.
Okay, so maybe I will take it first from a little bit another direction, just to food for thought. So writing a blog post that generates a lot of traffic is a very easy part. Very easy. We just basically find keywords that are clickbaity if you have a potential to rank, and then you can generate a lot of irrelevant traffic that will probably just go there and drop off and nothing's going to happen. But the question is, do you want your blog to be a traffic generator that attracts irrelevant audience, or do you want your blog post to basically be like additional tool to help you like generate business and be business oriented and help you actually reach your targets? Because if your blog post just basically attracts a lot of traffic that is not relevant, you will pretty soon have to speak with your managers about it, because they will be like, fine, okay, so we have a lot of traffic now, but it doesn't convert. So what are you going to do with it? So I basically always recommend people don't do that. Make sure to write a content that is just for your audience, that will actually attract less people that are relevant. Speak with your sales teams, speak with your customer service teams or social media teams if they have them, because these are people that are speaking with the potential clients, potential prospects. So they know the best what these people need. They know what these people are asking for. So basically, provide answers to their questions, provide solutions to their problems. And now maybe you're thinking, okay, so if I do it, they don't need me anymore. But this is not how it works. They will probably read more about the complexities of everything, and they will realize that they can do these things on their own, because there will still be something that they are lacking. And this will lead to actually increasing the traffic, but not maybe that much, but still will actually help you to grow business, generate qualified leads, or sell something better. Because if you just want to generate traffic, write about something that's clickbaity, controversial, or something that's trending, but then maybe you don't want to do business. So this is my perspective about this generating traffic on the blog. And I would like to say one more thing. The last thing that the internet needs is another blog post that someone already wrote about a million times. Sorry, but yeah.
Great. I really like that last point. Germé, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just quickly. I think rather than saying SEO blog posts, can we write customer-centric blog posts or customer-focused blog posts? Because it ties into what Martina is saying. A lot of times clients come to me and, for example, how much does an electric bike cost in the UK? They want to do a blog post about this, or they already have one. And actually, when you read it, it doesn't answer that question. But it might at the beginning of the post go, oh, okay, this is one average what it costs. But then the rest of it is about features, etc., etc. So it's more important to understand, okay, if you want to do something around that topic, for example, and this is what we changed on the client's website and we've done so much better, is to go into, okay, this is what different models cost. This is what the maintenance cost is. This is what batteries cost. Whatever, this is how many times you'll be able to, will have to change and this is the average cost of that. So the business was sitting on a lot of information, a lot of first-party data in terms of all of this. And we presented that in a way that somebody can get a very holistic view about it, and the person done super well. We also linked off to other guides within our website that was applicable to that, battery life and how batteries work, etc., which is quite an important thing, of course, in electric bikes. So it's really, don't think about SEO content, because as soon as I hear that, I feel people will be over focused around keywords. But it's rather, okay, this is the topical post that we want to do. What will be important for me as a user if I come there and I read that content? I think from that perspective, if you take that approach and always focus around that, the traffic will come and there's a higher probability that it will actually convert.
And I would also say, if I may add something, just try to differentiate, really make sure you provide the value. And also by providing the value, you are able to target the customers in different life cycles. And this is also important. Like you just can't attract audience that you can somehow convert. You still need to nurture your current customers. So then you have a lot of options which what you can do. You just need to make sure to have a right strategy about it. Provide data if you have them. If you want to attract new customers, try to write about what your current customers are dealing with and how you manage to help them solving those problems. Of course, in some niches, it's not always possible due to NDAs, etc., to publish everything, but I am pretty sure that they will be just happy if they see, oh, okay, so somebody else has this issue and this is the answer how we could solve it, and this is the partner we could solve it with. Really try differentiating. I know it's more time consuming and I know that it also might cost a lot of money, but in the end, you will be actually able to just grow your business and earn more money. This is actually how I do it, so with my customers.
You shared your secrets.
I was about to say, thank goodness no one said ChatGPT, and then I just noticed in the chat somebody did. I think they were joking.
Yeah, this has got a lot of actually chat. So thanks everyone for writing in the chat on this topic. Best way to get traffic, Simon's saying, is to be an expert in something and write about an engaging way. If you're not an expert, then someone else will be, and they will outrank anything that you do. And just on that point as well, to be an expert, I don't know if anyone knows NerdWallet. It provides financial advice. It's really good how they have actually written and structured their blog stroke content creation section, because yeah, everyone is an expert that writes, or if they're not, it also says, oh, verified by another person. And then you can also see what else they've done, other articles that they've written. Monza is also talking about, yeah, something that you know about that you're an expert in. She was actually talking to a lead the other day, and they're asking a similar question, but she also mentioned what you said, Martina, which was an excellent answer, but they didn't seem to take that. Yeah, there's some clients that may not be keen for that, but we can do as much as we can. And Zach actually had some recommendations regarding this. He has got a lot of experience with the blog, working at Wise. He says, important to have a vision for, what do you want it to be? How is it going to serve your users? And focus on the blog in general, and then how to help users and how to do 1 to 5 great posts. So really just, again, like we've said before, like focus on the user. What are they asking? And make sure you're the expert to answer that. We've got loads of chats, actually. I'm just going through at the same time. Yeah, some other, Wally's talking about, yeah, if you're chatting with your friends, so keep it casual if that is your tone of voice. If it is B2B and it's more professional, then do that as well. So yeah, loads of information here. Isadora is talking about finding the perfect balance between serving a customer, like educating them, then of course answering the question. And also back to, I think maybe Martina mentioned this about studies. There is a saying that if you don't without data, you're just another person with an opinion. So it is really important that if you do have a study, to include it. You can include it in the blog post. You can update older blog posts with that study if relevant, but share that, because a lot of people like to have the facts. And if you're a site that actually has facts, that goes on studies, people will come to you as opposed to another website. And so we just got one more as well. Yeah, No, that's it. Actually, yeah. So thank you very much.
Great.
7 minutes left, Mike.
I was just going to say on this, I love this question. I think it's one of my favorite parts about my job is coming up with content strategies and so on for companies. And I think what Isaac said actually about you shouldn't just be thinking about this one blog post, but actually what's your vision for the entire website or blog, and thinking about how you can provide content consistently that where you've got certain values that you're trying to achieve and get across, and expertise. I would say start very much on the research side of things. So when we're doing stuff like this, and I've done this from anything from, we worked with a college of general practitioners, so content all about that, through to hair extensions, through to travel, through to gaming, like lots of different industries. And whenever we're putting together a content strategy, my first port of call is usually I go and buy loads of books on the area. So often you'll see I'll have a stack of, for instance, one of our clients does ethical investing. And when I started working on it, I needed to understand and learn and get into the user's kind of mindset. So just read through very quickly a load of books to really understand interesting issues and so on. Magazines, another thing. I'm a bit old school. I quite like to go on eBay and look for any sort of old copies of popular magazines in that area. And then obviously look at, like others said here, about look at other websites and search competitors and so on, and try and get almost like a huge mind map of different topics. I'll have notes everywhere about, in this particular book on page 29, they'd covered this and so on, to try and really build a ton of research on it. And then what we do is we create briefs. SEOs are often involved in the briefing process, but when it comes to writing it, we find people that don't really know about SEO, and instead they're just really good copywriters. And then we'll have an editor who does know a bit about SEO. So it goes through a process rather than it just being, I'm going to go and find a competitor's blog post, copy it, and then just do what Martina said not to do, which is just another rubbish blog post or a copy of someone else's. And that, if I'm honest, it's pretty hard, but that stuff works, but it just takes a long time. So you've got to be prepared to do it properly. And I've had that same approach for probably the last 15 or however many years, from wedding guides through to whatever you name it. And it really does work, but it just means it just has to be the best possible thing on the internet. And along with organic traffic, you'll find you'll get lots of social shares and that sort of stuff as well. The only thing I would add is that when you are putting that strategy together, thinking about the stuff that there is actual search volume for versus the stuff that is actually just shareable and so on, and just making sure that if you are doing something for SEO, for example, you're trying to rank something, that you're just thinking about what somebody might be searching for, as opposed to, if you're thinking about social, you're thinking more about why might somebody share this. Usually it's a mixture of both, but it's important to think about, is this to nurture people on the website? Is it for sharing? Is it for organic traffic? Sorry, you can tell I got really excited there.
From Natalia is saying the blog can't be replaced for a good SEO strategy on the main website. Make sure you think about that too. We've got loads of interactions in the chat today. Thanks very much. And thanks everyone for joining us. We have 3 minutes left, Mike.
3 minutes. Okay, last regular question. I don't really need the ticket for it, which is, what are you most excited about in terms of SEO? Germé, what are you most excited about at the moment?
Yeah, so just quickly, I think in the last 10 months, it's been quite a rocky ride. I think for me, what I'm most excited about is just personally trying to figure out and navigate the space that we're in currently. I think it's never been so much in, I would say, turmoil as it's been. I'm excited to see what the search engines and the battles that are happening with all the AI related elements ChatGPT is bringing out there. Search beta, I think they launched it yesterday to be on the waiting list, so go check that out. That will be something interesting in the mix. I think for me, I'm just excited about how I will navigate this uncertain landscape. It's daunting, but at the same time challenging, which makes it quite interesting for me. So I'm looking forward to that.
Great. Martina, what are you most excited about in terms of SEO at the moment?
So for me, like in general, because I now work in the Czech Republic a lot, and SEO is, let's say, a little bit different there, or the maturity of the people is different. But now I'm very excited about how I'm trying to change the way how people perceive SEO, that it's not just the rocket science, and that I'm actually very successful in establishing relationships with copywriters who now don't think that SEO is just something unnecessary or a pain in the butt or anything they just dislike, and also with the developers. Because when I started working in the Czech Republic, it was just so different, and people, they dislike SEOs. They thought that SEOs are not necessary because they were just providing information. They didn't know what to do with it. So I'm trying to change it. So I'm now like really excited about that I can show people here that it can be different, that we can actually cooperate, and that it's essential for us to cooperate in order to actually help clients like most efficiently we can. I know it's a little bit different and certainly probably expected, but this is what I have at the moment, and I'm very excited about it.
That's great. Joe, what about you? You've literally got 10 seconds. What are you most excited about?
Always excited about events. I've shared about International Search Summit in November 14th, and also our next Search Barcelona is actually going to be terrace drinks and dinner in Barcelona, August 2nd, 1 week today.
Amazing. Thank you so much to everybody that joined us. Thank you to our speakers. Joe, thank you for co-hosting. Thank you to everybody that submitted questions, and thanks to those watching afterwards on YouTube. We'll be back next week. So see you then. Have a lovely weekend.
Thank you, everyone. See you later.
Bye. Bye.